Hello, my friends. I just want to speak once more today on Pete Buttigieg. Now, if you understand what God is doing right now in the world, and it's very, very hard not to, you have to be completely and literally blinded by the hatred of God yourself to not see it. He has made it very, very obvious who is wicked, who is not, even if you don't have the spirit. You can just hear what they're saying and know by what they're saying that they're wicked. For instance, if anyone stands up on the stage and says that abortion is a good thing, it's a woman's right. They should be able to abort the baby even if it's halfway out. Those things you just know by what they say, their wickedness. You know they would never, if they were born again, if they ever looked at themselves, they would never, ever, ever say or do anything remotely close to what they're saying there. They would want nothing to do with it because they see what it is. All of those ones God has made incredibly easy to see. And in fact, abortion is one of those topics that he's come right down the line with it and say, hey, you're either going to stand with it or against it. I will make all of those who are against it stand on one side. I will make all of those who are for it stand on another. Look at America. Look at the Democrats and the Republicans. You know why the country of Mystery Babylon is divided right down the middle? Because you have half standing with evil and half standing with good. And the good side, it doesn't mean that they're God's holy people. It doesn't mean they're children of God. It doesn't mean that they're Christian. It doesn't mean that they're Jews. It doesn't mean anything. The ones who are standing in favor of life, even the very minimalist thing of the human condition, God is saying even they are doing something which is not wicked. They're making one attempt at least to not be wicked. They're at least doing that. They're at least saying, hey, we're against abortion. We're going to write laws to protect life. Even if they don't care about the life, they're at least by their works protecting it. Okay, and this is important, and Jesus describes this. If you don't believe me, that's one thing, he says, but at least believe by what I'm doing. At least believe me by my works. You don't have to believe in me that I'm the Son of God, but believe me by what I'm doing. Okay, that's the same thing that he has done with Republicans in America. He has made them all, with the exception of a couple, completely against abortion. And even writing laws, trying to preserve life, even at the 12-week point and all of that thing. Though that's a whole different topic I'm not even going to get into. But what I'm saying is that God has made it very, very easy for one who doesn't know him, that can still look at the world and say, I'm going to stand on the right with them, or I'm going to stand on the left with them. He's even made the words sound the same. The right, conservatives, Republicans. The left, Democrats, progressives, they're just socialists. They're just wicked. But that's even how easy God has made it. He said, you're going to take a choice, right or left. By what I say about right and left, you'll know where you stand with me. If you stand on the right, then you stand on the right. That's my side. You've at least done that much. Okay, so he's made it very, very easy in the world to see wicked and to see something good. Whether or not they believe it in their hearts is something totally different. That's between God and them. But at least by what the world sees, it can say that that side is better than the other side because at least that side isn't killing babies. Okay, they can at least say that. At least they've done that. Pete Buttigieg stood on the stand last night in the Democratic convention, and again, he's the most for abortion you'll ever see anybody for, because he is wicked and evil completely. He stands on the podium and he speaks about how it's a woman's choice even in a partial birth. He's talking about the baby out of the womb, the baby on the table, still hooked up to the umbilical cord. He's saying that's still the woman's choice there. Even when the baby's out and crying, that's just exactly what it is. It's just murder. It's God saying, here's actually what abortion is. He's just making it crystal clear that it's murder. You might as well just take your own kid and cut their head off whenever they're a year old. It's the same exact thing. God has made it that obvious. So you do see in America, there is now a change coming around. to where people have seen by the works of the wickedness that that's not good. And more Americans now are against abortion than they have been since 1972 because of that, because God making it obvious. Now, this is where I'm going to get into Pete Buttigieg and Donald Trump, and how if God is making everything this obvious, guess what else he's making obvious? You have in the world, ever since the crucifixion of Christ, the spirit of Antichrist, which has rolled over the world. Because you have the Holy Spirit, which is of God, and you have the spirit of Antichrist, which is of Satan. Two different spirits, completely opposite of each other, both in the world at the same time. One still physically, fleshly ruling the world, which is the spirit of Antichrist, because the world has not yet been made new. So the spirit of Antichrist is still in power. But then the Holy Spirit is the one who breaks that spirit of Antichrist. So whatever the world has, you turn on the news station, you see CNN, MSNBC, you see even Fox News, you see all of these news places. They're all doing the same thing. That is the spirit of Antichrist, whether it be good or bad. It's the spirit of Antichrist making disciples out of the world. That's the gospel right there. The governments and what they're saying, along with the media and what they're saying, that's their gospel. That's the spirit of Antichrist's gospel. Follow me and you will be protected. If you just believe what I say and do what I say, it's about control and power. So you take a look at what Donald Trump has done. Now, you know a man more by their enemies than even by their friends. And this is true always in life. You know a person by their enemies a lot of times better than you'll know them by their friends. The spirit of Antichrist is against Donald Trump. If God were not with him, he would have been taken out from the very beginning. This man has gone through one peril after the next, one attack after the next. Everybody has come against this man. Everybody. And yet he has not fallen. So obviously, if we see that God has not taken him out of the way, what has that meant? Well, that meant that God has put him there. So indeed, he does have the power to fulfill his purpose, and it will not fall or stop until the scriptures be fulfilled. Now, what is the purpose of the king of Babylon? What is the purpose of Mystery Babylon? That purpose of Mystery Babylon is to raise the third temple, because the Jews, Israel in the Middle East, I'm talking about that Israel, the ones who call themselves Jews but are not Jews, they still have to build that temple, and it still has to go up. Right there, it has to go up on Temple Mount, somewhere in Israel. The temple still has to be built there. Christ will still enter into that temple. And that's where Christ lets everybody there know that they have not known him at all. And that's where he takes the children of God out. And then that's whenever you invoke the jealousy of the Jews and the Christians who didn't go with the children because none of them knew God. That is the beginning point of Jesus making his church faithful. That happens in that moment that he steps in that third temple. And then the one that comes after him, that's the one who is against him. And that's the one who will lead those who will be faithful to their deaths. And he will lead all of those who are not faithful to Christ into his army to be destroyed by the coming of the Lord the next time he shows up on earth. Okay, so all of that has to happen. So if the third temple must be fulfilled, there is no one which will stop Donald Trump from doing it. Donald Trump is a Zionist. I don't know if any of you maybe know this. Zionist believes that Israel is God's chosen people, that that land is God's chosen land, and that if you bless it, you are blessed. Donald Trump believes in all of that. And there is something to this. Again, there is something to it, because even doing the physical works in the world, even if you don't know God, at least you are doing what God has said to do. Okay, and that's bless the Jews, bless the people of Israel, do good for Israel, and good things will happen to you. So God has taken the world and made the world, which is Antichrist, still work for him out of believing in what has happened already in Israel. So they at least believe Israel by its works is of God. And they believe if they bless Israel, then they're going to be blessed by this God. The Lord, the Father in heaven, has done this to fulfill a purpose because he has to do everything on earth as is written in the scriptures. God is with Donald Trump right now, or he would not be standing. I have consistently spoke of this. Whether he turns into Judas and turns or not, that's another thing that I've been debating upon. But as of right now, God is with him. I had a dream that I specifically spoke about before, where God told me to put him into office, to go and cast a vote. It was the first time I ever voted in my life. You can picture me as a slave. I'm an Israelite living in Mystery Babylon as a slave here. But Donald Trump and the governments have given me a vote still, even as a freed slave, so to speak, from Jeremiah chapter 30. We're like freed slaves. That's how we live our life. But we still do what is good or best for the world, because that's what we want to do. We are slaves, but we still have a vote in countries that are good to God's people. America is good to God's people. I have a family. I have a house. I have comfortableness. The country has been good to me. I can sit here and talk on YouTube and make videos. That's how good the country has been to me. It has not been bad to me. But I see the country going apart and heading down the path of wickedness. I was on the path of wickedness until I came out of that from God. And now I can understand and literally look at everything that's happening, and you can see the spirit of Antichrist is against Donald Trump in every way. They have tried to kill him. They've tried to take him out. They've tried to remove him from office. They tried to stop him from being elected. Every plot they have tried against has not worked. So that literally means that God put him there and put him there for a purpose, or else he would have fallen just like Nixon did, just like everybody else did. He would have fallen had God not been with him. But God is with him right now. So what does this mean for Pete Buttigieg? He fits the bill of the Antichrist, the one who comes in at the end, stands and proclaims himself to be God, because he will lie and by deceit bring people to believe that he is God, because he will say that humanity is all gods. We're our own gods. We can create our own future. Whatever it's going to be, I have no idea. But he fits the bill of everything else, one that woman cannot sway him. He does not lust after women. Well, we know that's certainly not true of Donald Trump. But Pete Buttigieg, he does not lust after women. He's an open homosexual with a husband. So he fits the bill of all of these things. If you go to Daniel 11 and read about it, he fits the bill. Trump also fits the bill in a lot of ways, but the world and the spirit are the same kind of thing. They're the same kind of thing. They're both from Babylon. So, of course, Donald Trump is going to fit the bill of a lot of people from Babylon as well. They're not Israelites. But at the same time, the one who builds the temple, whoever that will be, that's not the Antichrist. We know from the scriptures, whoever builds the temple is like Cyrus. Now, everybody's been talking about this peace plan. For the last 3 years, people have been talking about this Middle Eastern peace plan. And it's come about and it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Why do you think it keeps getting pushed back? It keeps getting pushed back because Donald Trump wants to be reelected again in 2020. We will go to the ballots and we will vote again for him in November. And he wants to be reelected. He doesn't want to start building the temple before he is reelected. That's the only thing he's waiting for, because he then has and knows he has 4 more years to accomplish it. Well, we know the temple is built and there's peace on the world for 3.5 years. So what does this look like? Donald Trump builds the temple at the very beginning of his second term of presidency, and there is peace on the earth, even though the temple is built in perilous times, because it is at the end. It's in sorrows, it's in tribulations. It's built in perilous times, yet it will be built, and God will let it be built. Well, he already moved the embassy into Jerusalem, so we know that he is the most pro-Jewish person you'll ever see, and he has done right by Israel, and Israel has followed him as their king. They're all pandering. You know how Democrats and Republicans will pander about past presidents to get the vote of a former person? The Democrats will stand on a stage and they'll praise Barack Obama and say, I was with Barack Obama. I helped him do all this. Well, Netanyahu and everybody else in Israel is saying, I stood with Donald Trump whenever he came over here and did this and blah, blah, blah. They're using Donald Trump to get elected themselves. He rolls over that nation. The peace plan is going to involve the building of the third temple. That's why it has not come yet in full details. No matter what Israel has to give up or do, they will give up in order to build that third temple. And it will happen. It will be raised. So then if you have Donald Trump as the one like Cyrus who builds the third temple, he's not the Antichrist. He's like Cyrus. But the one who comes after him then, that's the one to watch out for. Because the one who comes after Donald Trump, that's the one that you have to look at. And we look at Pete Buttigieg, guy that came out of nowhere, South Bend, Indiana, over Notre Dame University. He was the mayor of it. Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg. And behold stands someone that appears to be a lamb but speaks like a dragon. He's got 2 horns like a lamb, but he speaks like a dragon from Revelation. Peter Paul, his name speaks of it. Peter Paul, 2 horns like a lamb. Montgomery Buttigieg, but speaks like a dragon. Buttigieg means a keeper of chickens or somebody of poultry or birds. Can be likened to a dragon. Montgomery means a man of power. So he very literally is like a lamb that has the ability to speak like a dragon. And I'm not saying it is Pete Buttigieg, but I'm saying of all people in the world, this is who the Spirit points to look out for. He's not going to get elected this year. That's Donald Trump's election. He has no chance. But in 2024, there's a good chance of that. Because look at where the country is heading towards. If war breaks out, for instance, which is also scripturally called for in Donald Trump's next term, then again people are going to go back and the Democrats will change their strategy to get reelected, and then they'll come back into power because of all these things that are happening. You can see it all happen. America flip-flops every 8 years or so. The House always flip-flops, the Senate always flip-flops, because the American people remain in ignorance for the most part. They don't know even who or what they're voting for. They just go and vote because that's what they've always did. The same as people go into church and don't know why they're in church, but just because they've always done it. It's the same kind of a thing. God shows America is an ignorant country because they do not seek out the knowledge and the wisdom of the truth. They just kind of go about their days. So you could see by 2024 everything changing, and then this man coming in and destroying everything that was set up by God. He fits the bill of the Antichrist perfectly. As children of God, I do not believe that I will be here in order to see this happen. I believe that Christ takes me before this. But for the church will remain here. So if any of you end up coming here and listen to me, and you see this happen, know that you heard it already, and know why it's happening, and know who your enemy is. If he steps into power in 2024 and you are still here and you have seen the temple become raised by Donald Trump, and then you have seen Donald Trump taken out, and you see the next man come in there as Pete Buttigieg, know that you heard it here already. And then know that that one is your enemy. That is the one who you are against. Because God puts people into elected office for the sake of all of his children, to remove the bondage from them. He's put Donald Trump into office right now so that all of the scriptures can become fulfilled of the third temple. No other president would ever do what Donald Trump has done for Israel. He is the trump. He is the trumpet for that people. He is the trumpet for the church. He is the trumpet for the world. That you're living in a time when scriptures are being literally fulfilled on earth, and you will see it happen. Now understand that you're going to have the church, and they're going to come out and say with this peace plan, the church will say, well, you're going to immediately see the judgment poured out on America because they made them give up land and they're building this third temple, and that's the Antichrist. You're going to hear the church talk all about that. And then they're going to be talking about the plagues and everything that has come over the land and the judgment that's come over America because of this third temple. No, my friends, that's not why the judgment comes. The judgment comes because the wicked refuses to let the church and the people be free. The wickedness over this land is not allowing us to be free, just like Pharaoh isn't allowing us to be free. God is in the corner of America in Israel. But even the just rulers will not let us go. So just like Pharaoh, God is bringing the punishment, bringing the judgment to the whole world until Christ comes to remove us. Look at China, for instance. China, who came out against America very strongly. Now what's going on in China? Economically, China said, we want to battle with America. What's happening in China? Well, the Wuhan virus came and now they're shutting down everything. Their stock market has dropped. It's crashed. China all of a sudden went from a major power to nobody wants anything to do with them. You think that's not judgment? Because God is with America. He is with Donald Trump. Notice how anyone who comes against him, any country who comes against him, what's happened to them? He's taken down China now with viruses. He got North Korea to go to a table and sit and speak to him. They haven't launched any nuclear tests. He went from a guaranteed sure war with Iran and the world loving and being on the side of Iran to Iran backing down with their tails between their legs, and they've basically run out of the whole picture. Any nation who comes against him, because God is on his side, they will see the justice and the swift rebuke of God, because they're trying to interfere with the third temple being built, and God won't let them. God has one purpose with Donald Trump in America, is to raise the third temple in Israel so that all of the scripture can be fulfilled, not only what your physical eyes can see, but in the spiritual sense. You know that when Israel raises their physical third temple of Solomon up, guess what Christ is going to do? He's going to raise his third temple, which is the children of God, up. Guess what that is? That's the rapture. But you still have to fulfill it in the world the same as it's fulfilled in the spirit. There will be a physical third temple, and there will be the spiritual third temple. Israel will go in the spiritual third temple to New Jerusalem, while physical Israel, which turns into the church, will then go through tribulations. That's just how it works. The spirit on earth as it is in heaven. It's the same exact thing. So if you're going to mess with Donald Trump as a nation or as a ruler, look at how much things he's exposed of the Democrats. My goodness. If you're going to go against him, God is going to put you out. Look what he's done to Joe Biden. If you go against Donald Trump, because he is put in by God to fulfill the scriptures of the third temple being built, if you go against him, God is going to take you out of the picture. And that's what we see happening in the world. That's the logical set of eyes that you can see. If you just believe the obvious truth, because God does not work in mystery, he works in truth and obvious. He's not a deceiver. If you just open your eyes and see, you will see all of these things that I've just spoken of. And it's taken me a long time to be able to really piece it all together and see it. But finally, God has removed that veil for me, where I'm not looking at the hidden things. I'm not looking at everything occult. I'm looking at what God put right out in the open. I'm saying, there it is. Once you do this, my friends, you will see all the things that I have spoken to you as true, because it's happened and you can visibly see it. The third temple will be built. It will be built as soon as Donald Trump comes into that next term of presidency. We will have our 3.5 years of peace, where peace will be over the world, but it's a false peace because it's just building up to explode. Something will happen with Donald Trump at the end of that 3.5 years, or even into the next term. Whoever is elected, that next president, that's your Antichrist. And I truly believe, watch out for Pete Buttigieg. Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg, who looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon. He speaks in blasphemy of the name of Christ all day and night. He will talk about his religion and his Lord. He is a blasphemer. He is wicked and evil. He wants to come into power, and he came out of nowhere by deceit to come into winning Iowa the other day. Watch out for this one, my friends. From what I understand and what I see right now, he is the only candidate, the only one in the world who I have seen that fits the bill of all the requirements of the one that comes that destroys God's people. And by God's people, at that point in time, I mean the church. Watch out for him. If you are still here, that means that you are still the church. And it's time to be faithful. If you are still here and you see all this happen, know who your enemy is and know where you heard it. Know that you heard it ahead of time so that when it happens, you will know what to do. God bless.